The first thing to consider when you're going to do this upgrade with the X133 is it's very heavy. You're probably going to want to have a hand to bring it into the place you're going to be using to do the upgrade. And then you're going to need to be able to reach in with the unit upside down so you can install the parts. You also need to have it right side up to remove the LCD display. So I will go ahead and show each section and we'll provide the Allen wrenches that are needed for the upgrade. I'm going to go do an unboxing of the 6K upgrade for the Epax X133. I actually purchased this upgrade in March, but now it's December and I'm finally able to get to it. So I want to start with showing you what comes in the box. So this is what it comes in, X133 6K upgrade kit. When you first open the box, we have the protector of the LCD. And then we'll open the next box. I've already set the tape. You have a ribbon cable. Pull this out. Because in here is an additional ribbon cable. It's the power for the LCD unit. So we have this cable. And then we've got this cable on the front. And this is taped up and I haven't taken it out yet. But this is the LCD in here. We have it well protected in foam. The next piece is the control board for the unit. And you do want to make sure that you don't have any static. Make sure it's anti-static. There's another piece of foam. There are two brackets. This is what's going to hold the light. You actually can do two versions of the upgrade. One is with a new light unit, and one is to use your existing light unit. The last piece is the light unit and everything that comes with it. We'll go ahead and unwrap these and show you what they look like after I unwrap them. And that is everything in the box. It does have additional foam for insulation. Oh, sorry, I did miss a few things. The screws and the zip ties to be able to zip tie the cable. Let's go ahead and unpackage. It does seem to be well secured. And so there you can see the array and all that, the fan and everything else that goes with it. Additionally, you do need to cut the zip ties. They're just securing the cables, being very careful. Okay, so here's the LCD. Very gentle with it as well. And we'll go ahead and unwrap this when we're ready to install this. You will need a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench to remove the back panel. I'll go ahead and remove that now. Now that you have this back panel off, before we flip it upside down, and you'll notice here that the bottom is already gone. I realized this after I'd moved forward, but after you've removed this panel, let's go ahead and disconnect the cable for the LCD that we currently have, the 4K mono. This is the connector that powers that LCD. So we can actually remove the LCD first. So to do that, we want to pull this connector out. It's connected right in here. You just have to pull gently to get it to come out. So I've disconnected that unit, and now we can work on taking the LCD out. So if you'll see on my unit, I have something different than the standard. I had to replace my cover. There was some liquid resin that spilled. So we need to gently remove the tape because we need to get to these Allens right here. And again, remember that we might want to protect this because you might want to use this as a backup. You can always go back to a 4K unit if necessary. This is a 2.5 millimeter Allen bolt. Here we go. So just use the Allen. What I did is I just put a little bit of angled torque just to gently lift so I could lift it out. And then it should come out of the unit. Now you would normally have the lighting array underneath. Now before we continue, we're going to want to wipe any residual residue. It might be resin or whatever might be have been in this crack. So give it a good wipe down. Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and turn the unit over and start taking it apart from the underneath. For the bottom of the unit, you will need a 3 millimeter Allen wrench. Again, be careful when you turn the unit upside down to make sure there's no damage. With the unit upside down, you do need to remove the Allens on the legs as well as the 6 Allens. So there's a total of 10 Allen bolts you have to remove. Also note that the Allen bolts that go into the legs are actually longer, and so you'll just need to keep track of that so when you put them back on. With all the bolts removed, you should be able to gently lift the bottom panel up from the inside and set it aside for now. So we have the panel off, and now we need to start working removing almost everything out of the bottom of this. So here is the original light array. Here is the controller that we need to remove. So we need to remove this unit. We need to remove this entire unit. It is a 2.5 millimeter Allen. I'm going to start by removing these. Let's go ahead and disconnect. This is the connector for the front LCD. You want to be very gentle with this. And it just pulls out. It slips in, pulls out. For now, we can just kind of put this off to this side, stick it there just to get it out of the way. So now we're going to go through and remove these. Now note, there was some glue here, kind of holding it in place. So you can decide yourself whether you want to glue in the new unit, whether it's hot glue or some other gentle glue just to help. As long as you're not having a lot of significant vibration, you're probably going to be fine, but just a note that there is. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and slip this out. So next, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this cable and the Ethernet. And I'm going to try to keep as many things connected as I can. So I might not even remove this board as long as I can actually disconnect the panel for the lighting array without taking this off. Let's go and validate on the new board the connectors that we're going to be connecting to. So it's 1224, good. That matches. It looks like hot doesn't have anything connecting to it, so it's not needed. So we have 1224. We have LED minus plus. LED F is the next. And then the MBF is here. So this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, and this goes there. And then over here on the side, we have a Z. So the Z connector goes right here. The Z connector goes onto the Z connector. Just be really gentle when you're removing these. They should come out with just a little bit of movement. Now I know there was tape and there was glue holding it in place, and so you might need to kind of work it out because of the glue that Epax had installed. And that's all the cables. So we won't be needing these cables anymore when we do the install. So we'll have to go through and see what we keep and what we don't keep. Let's go ahead and remove these two. Again, 2.5 millimeter. This is a fairly involved upgrade. I know that they do have an upgrade just to upgrade the screen and you leave the same lighting unit, but from asking Epax today, they still prefer to do the light upgrade at the same time that you're doing the screen update. So we'll need to cut some zip ties. I'm going to go ahead and remove this unit. It'll probably be easier that way. I guess one benefit is that if Epax says you can use this existing light unit with the upgrade, you could theoretically keep this unit as a backup. And if something were to die, you could replace it and put this back in. So make sure if you're doing things, it might be a good idea to take a lot of pictures or making a video. So if you ended up having to replace this again, you'd be able to put it back in. It looks like this has 4 more and that's good. And this is going to be a 3 millimeter. It does look like my unit had some type of damage. Looks like the base here was bent. It was probably bent on delivery. I haven't noticed it. I've been using this. I received it last Christmas as a Christmas gift, and I used it quite a lot over the winter and the spring without any problems. But it definitely looks like it was damaged in shipments. It's unfortunate. I wish I would have noticed that up front. It's just a heavy unit. You don't really lift it and turn it upside down when you first buy it. And I think to be able to remove this, we're going to have to remove these zip ties here. We got 2 more Allens on this side. Then I think this whole thing, I'll have a zip tie here. Looks like this bottom plate will come up with 2 more 3mm Allen bolts. I ended up getting this cobalt extension Allen wrench, and I'm going to continue using the 3. Okay, straight up and out. Okay, we now have 1 more bolt here. So now the next part is we're going to start installing again. So step 1 on the upgrade is you have to install these brackets. There are 2 brackets, 1 go on each side. So you install the first bracket here, and the next bracket, the flat part down, it's installed on this side. You go to the parts that you received with your unit. So you have new screws you can use for the install. You're going to be using 3mm. Do not tighten these down all the way. Just get them started. Okay, now the video instructions from Epax say you need to slide this all the way forward towards the LCD. So this side is the LCD. So I'm sliding it all the way forward, and then I'm going to tighten it down. So first finger tighten it, and then tighten it the rest of the way down. Be careful not to over torque. You want these to be secure. With the upgrade, we actually don't use these 3 fans. The new light source will not fit in with these 3 fans that were originally part. Something else that I noticed was that with this upgrade, we go from 2 fans in the fins for cooling. In the new unit, the 6K unit, we actually go to a single fan. So we go from 5 fans for cooling to 1 fan, plus the 2 side fans in the unit. So I'm assuming that there's a lot less heat in the 6K unit, and hopefully everything will be fine and there won't be any overheating. So the next step is we need to remove this fan unit. There are 2 3mm Allen bolts that need to be removed to take this off. The next thing we'll have to figure out is that the power for this is all combined. So we're probably going to need to cut and then tape off the end of these wires that are going to this fan unit. So we can keep using the other fan unit and the connections for it. So for now, since I don't want to pull this all out, I'm going to just go to this point right here, and I'm going to cut these 3 wires and cut these 3 wires because we still have wires going to both side fans. Then I can take this out. The next thing we need to do is install this. This installs this direction, and there's 4 mounting screws. So we just have to make sure we're getting to the 4 mounting screws and align it. And then we need to put 4 short 3mm Allen bolts into the holes and mount them down securely. Well, in going through the instructions, I've now found that this additional board here is no longer used for whatever reason. So we need to remove it from the case, and it looks like it's going to be using 2.5mm Allen, and then we'll remove this piece as well. The next step is to install the new control board. Which is over here. It's installed this way. We want to be able to connect these right here. So we're going to install right there. And we have 4 more bolts we have to do. With the upgrade, you've received screws. We need the 2.5s to mount the board. Next, we need to connect the LCD to the board. We need to remove the existing LCD connector, which is this. To install this, we want the blue facing you, the wires going towards the LCD. So we want to gently slide that in until it clicks. Then we're going to bend, come around. This side, we want the blue down. So we want the white up. So we're just going to bend this around. Make sure it slides in all the way. Okay. Now we need to connect these 3 connectors. The first one we're going to connect is the red and white going to the first slot. The next one we're going to connect is the one with the shrink tube all the way down to the end. That'll connect next in. The next one we're going to connect is the fans for the unit. Now we need to connect the fans from this. Now what they talked about is that we have to switch the fan. You'll notice that the short length is here because they used to connect on this side. But now the control board's here. So you're going to have to remove this fan and switch places so that the connector is closer. So you'll be able to plug it in right here, which is the fan, plus and minus. To do that, we need 4 2.5 millimeter bolts removed on each side, and we will reuse those bolts. And we'll take the 4 on this side off. And again, this is 2.5 millimeter. Be careful to hold the fan so it doesn't drop when you're taking the last bolt off. I will just switch sides. You want to make sure that if it was pointing out before, you want it pointing out again. So we're going to want to flip it to put it back on the other side so that the fans are facing the same directions they were before. Hand thread all 4 to begin with and keep it loose just to make sure it'll thread. And then tighten it down. Now we'll repeat it with this. So this guy is now going to come across. Remember the plate, keep it the same. Keep the plate with the fan so you know which way to face it, because we want to mount it the same way so the fan is spinning in the same direction that it was before. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and tape this off. Shouldn't be any shorting problems since they're already shorted at the end. Now we can connect it to this last slot for the fans. Next thing we need to do is we have the Z motor, which is these 4 wires that need to be connected. We also have this connector, which is the sensor. Then we still need to connect the network cable and the USB connector. I'll go ahead and run these under. And again, if you wanted to apply some epoxy or something just in case you're worried about it coming undone, there shouldn't be a lot of vibration. As long as your machine is sitting somewhere where it's stable, you shouldn't have any problems. Now we need to go ahead and connect the power. And I did forget to cut 1 additional zip tie. Okay, so now these connectors are, remember, red, black, yellow. Red is in the first. Then black. And then yellow. I'm going to go ahead and zip tie now. And you can just see how I'm choosing to do it. Of course, there's no real science. You're just trying to secure the cabling to try to have it be as least likely to cause problems. So we have the bottom plate that unfortunately on mine is bent. And the 4 feet. Remember, it's a 3mm, and it's the longer screws that go into the feet. Now we'll do the other 6 screws. You don't want to over tighten these. Okay, all the wires are protected. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over so we can work on the LCD, and we'll start up again. The LCD comes wrapped very carefully, and it has 4 corner plastic pieces. Let me just slip those off. And then very gently, we're going to want to unwrap this. We're going to want to try to make sure as little as possible do we want to touch the front of the LCD. And there appears to be a piece of plastic over this to protect it. So we'll probably peel that when we install it. There's plastic around the whole thing. Now, we need to reuse this plate. This is what the LCD connects to, and it fits in and we tighten it in. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to wipe down if you've happened to had any resin that has leaked through, which I had one resin leak. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the old LCD. It is sit in there with double stick tape. So if you just apply a little pressure to the edges very gently, because remember we want to be able to use this again if we need to, then it should come forward and come out. Okay, so there's the old 4K. Now we're going to want to wipe off just in case there's any wet resin. And we should be able to use some of this double stick tape that's already there from before for the next one if you don't have double stick tape. But you're going to want to make sure that the new LCD is secured well to this platen. Once you've dried it securely, you're going to want to see how good that sticky tape is. Because there's nothing securing this in other than the sticky tape. There's no screws or anything that actually holds it in place. Because these screws, here and here, are just holding this plate on, but the LCD just sits in this notch. We're now going to go ahead and install the LCD. When you look at it, the glass part is the bottom, and this thin is where the LCD is right here. This is the top. There is a thin film on this. I don't like how it's bubbled and marked, so I'm going to remove it You do have to remove this back film before you install it, and we will eventually need to connect this connector right here. So there's a connector right here we're going to connect that powers it. So what we want to do is we're going to want to peel the back, and then for me, I just like to have a clean film. So I'm actually going to clean this very gently with an alcohol wipe. So I can see a little bit of scuff marks on the back of the glass. So I'm just, and some film just built up. I'm just going to gently wipe. I mean, this is glass, but I just want to make it so that I have as clean as possible glass layer, because this is where the light is being applied, and then it shines through to do the backlight. And since we're talking about a 6K screen, I don't want to have any imperfections, if at all possible, on this side of the screen. Now we're going to apply this by turning this upside down. We need to make sure that this plastic piece goes through this slot first, and then it sticks. And then press, because we have the double stick tape. Before we install the LCD to the unit, we need to make sure we connect this connector. The instructions talk about connecting this side to the circuit board, so therefore this side needs to be connected to the screen. And this side has this little flap. I'm assuming this little flap is to just help us tape it down to keep it more secure, because I can't see. When we look here at the connector, there's this cut piece. And if we oh, it looks like it does have a clip. So we can clip it to lock it. So you need to lower this tape right here. Then, if we look at the connector, one side has the connecting pieces and one side does not. The side with the connecting pieces should be facing away from the circuit board. I'm going to come into here and I'm going to gently press to get it to connect, and it'll connect. And then I'm going to spin this cable or this clip and clip it in place on both sides. And then that'll help the connector stay in place. So that clip flips around to the front, and then you can put the tape back down, and that will be in an extra layer of security. Now we should be ready to put the screen in. But before I'm going to do that, I'm going to again try to remove dust, because unfortunately moving it around has added more dust to the screen. Now before we install this, we're going to want to make sure we wipe down any dust. We want to look at the lenses and gently, very gently, we do not want to scratch or leave a mark, but we do want to remove as many specks as we can. And we're talking about a 50 micrometer or 10 micrometer line. We don't want to have things in here, which we might need some tape to be able to gently get this date material off. I'm just going to gently use some Scotch tape to just gently remove any specks I see from the top Then you might want to go around the edge. So we're now going to add the LCD to the unit. This cable needs to go through this back hole here so we can connect it to the circuit board. So we're going to feed that through the back hole. We're going to feed the rest of that slide, the board through, and then set it in place. So to install the screen, we need 6 slotted screws that have a slant. The upgrade kit comes with new screws, so you can use new screws. And it is a 2.5 millimeter. The next step is I want to wipe down anything that's left here before I apply the mask so that the mask can have a good seal. Now I'm going to go ahead and peel. To connect the connector of the LCD that came through from the front, there's a little connector right here. You slip or open the connector by finding the little notch and popping it down. Then the connector itself has a gold side with the connectors and a black side. The black side goes away from you. You want to see the shiny. Slip it in gently, make sure it goes all the way in, and then you want to close the connector. So from underneath, you're going to push it close once you have the connector all the way in. To put the screen protector border on the LCD, we're first going to want to turn on the unit. Once the unit's on, we will grab the corner protection and we're going to go ahead and go into a demo by pressing Tools, Exposure Test, and Start. From there, we can see where we want to install the screen protector. Once you know where you're going to put it, you need to take the backing off very gently, trying not to touch it very much to keep the adhesion. And the last step, put the back plate back on. Again, this takes a 2.5 millimeter Allen. And that concludes the 6K upgrade for the hardware. The next step is going to get the latest firmware installed, and then you're going to want to use the latest production version of Box. whether you're using the free or the pro version of CheetahBox. And well, I've got my unit installed today. This is my custom cabinet. I have my X133 in the back of the cabinet, and just another thing I have inside the cabinet is a heater. This heater is what I use to heat up my box. This is sitting in my garage, and I have it enclosed with a plexiglass door. And just to go through and show you the print that is going on right now, I'm printing a game board. In my CheetahBox settings, the only thing I did is I'm using water-soluble resin. So I kept the default CheetahBox settings for X133 6K, but the only thing I did was I set the pulse width modulation for the light to 50%. So it's 128 instead of 255. My case as well, I've got this temperature controller with a temperature gauge, and I plug in the heater to that, and then I have this multi-switch for my power. So my heater doesn't turn on as long as the temperature is warm enough in the case. Good luck. I hope your upgrade for the X133 goes well. I hope this can be helpful for you to allow you to do the upgrade yourself.